5 reasons not to go into dental school or not to become a dentist. 5 reasons dentistry sucks. I should be drinking wine, not coffee, so that you guys can get the real truth. Okay. Here we go. So, the reason I thought this video is really important is because I'm always talking about like all the good things in dentistry, like all good things. Like obviously I love my profession. I'm very lucky though to be able to say that, because when people ask me like, how'd you know you want to be a dentist? Like I said before, I don't think that you could actually know. Like there are plenty of people that go into dentistry and they're like, they think it's gonna be one way and it's totally different. Once I graduated dental school and went into private practice, I realized this is not what I thought at all. This is not what I thought at all. And it's hard to like be upfront and say these things, obviously, because like I am a business owner and I don't want to, like, nobody wants to come off as the dentist that hates their job. You know, that's why no one's talking about it. Like, unless you really hate it and you've gotten out of it. If you have been able to get out of the profession, then you'll be more vocal. It's kind of like how I kind of hated being in academia, not because I didn't like teaching, but because I didn't like the profession and the politics around it. So I think it's quite possible for people to graduate from dental school and love dentistry, but then not do well in the profession, not like the profession. It happens all the time. Probably the first biggest thing to talk about when it comes to reasons not to go into dental school is like obviously the price of dental school. It's so expensive. Yeah, I graduated, just for reference, I graduated with around $325,000 of student loans. And I think like when you go into dental school, you're thinking like, oh, well, it'll be easy to pay back. I mean, when you become a dentist, you do make money, like good money, depending on whether you're productive or not. And you can pay it back, but it is a freaking burden. It's a burden. And my husband has even more student loans than me. He went to NYU. That's like one of the most expensive schools. It's a 4-year school and it's in New York City, which is like so expensive. Not only that, he was popping bottles at the club. Yes, we can definitely pay those loans back, but it is definitely gonna be crippling when it comes to moving forward in life. Like for example, when I got out of dental school and finally came back, all my friends who had not become professionals, they already had homes because they were working and making money for that long period of time. They kind of like progressed in life while I was still in my educational bubble. And it sucks when you're like a doctor, but you like half of everything that you make is going back to paying back a debt to become a doctor, and yet people are like, oh, aren't you rich? No, we're not rich. Like especially in the first couple of years, you're not rich and you will have nothing saved up in your bank account. So if you don't have anything saved up in your bank account, where do you think your down payment's gonna come for your house? Not to mention that your debt to income ratio is gonna be so messed up that a lot of banks won't lend to you and it'll be impossible to buy your house. For example, me and Byron, we got help from my parents. My parents are in real estate, and so we were able to find like little loopholes to getting our first house. And even though me and Byron were making good money and we had the down payment, nobody would lend to us. Nobody, because of our student loan debt. Yeah, if they didn't help us, me and Byron wouldn't have a home. Like maybe now that I've been a dentist for 10 years, now we could buy a home, but there's no way that we could be sitting in this home. I lived with my parents inadvertently. I wasn't planning to, but I was just like waiting for my husband to propose to me. And I was like, I refuse to pay, like move out and pay rent when my parents' house has like all these rooms in it. Like I'm squatting here until my husband puts a ring on this finger. So I just did that. But thankfully, because I was staying at home and I didn't have a mortgage or anything like that, when I bought my practice, I didn't have a lot of like liabilities. that was definitely a good thing. That definitely worked in my favor. And I bought my practice and my home at the same time. So like both of them didn't really know about each other. By the way, I didn't do this like super strategically. It just happened to work out. If I had done it the other way around, like if I had a home first, I would not have been able to qualify for my practice. Another note about the student loans, what I don't like about student loans is that it really does imprison you to dentistry, even if you don't like it. So it's a big decision to go to dental school these days. It's very difficult to evaluate, honestly, because dentistry is becoming, I mean, it has been super, super saturated. There's a dentist on every corner. We're all like sort of fighting each other to stay alive and finding ways to differentiate ourselves. And in the meantime, insurance companies are paying less and less and being less cooperative, unless you're fee for service and you set your own fees, which part of my practice is like that, but I do accept PPO insurances. And if you're getting paid less for each procedure that you're doing, that means you have to see more patients. And if you're trying to make a certain amount as an associate or as a dentist, that means you have to increase your volume and you have to see more patients, right? It just makes sense. So it's getting harder and harder to make the same amount of money. And meanwhile, the cost of education is going upwards, which I don't really understand. So the only thing that's going up right now is the cost of education. And at a certain point, there's going to be a tipping point where it's not worth it to get that education anymore. Worth it financially, from a financial perspective. Okay, the second thing that I think is really bad about dentistry. It's all about business. This is where it's very frustrating for a lot of dentists. It's where healthcare meets business. And this is just like one of those things that really taints the love for our profession for a lot of dentists. A lot of dentists are good at dentistry. A lot of dentists love dentistry, but a lot of dentists are bad business owners. And it's really tough, like finding that fine balance when it comes to offering something that we consider as healthcare because we're doctors, and balancing that with like the business aspect of things. Like, for example, you think, oh, I went to dental school because I really care about people's oral hygiene and blah, 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 blah. Well, you got into the real world and you realize you have 10 seconds with that patient. You can only see that patient for 10 seconds. So all that stuff that you learned in dental school, like you don't even get to help people with it because you don't have time. So you like pop in and say, oh, hey, and then you say like, okay, let me just make sure you don't have any cavities. Okay, bye. My practice, by the way, is built in a very, very slowed down fashion. I see one patient at a time, and that is definitely a sacrifice in terms of how much money I make. I could definitely make more money if I saw more patients, but I decided for myself that I'm not gonna do it that way. Thankfully, I'm not the sole breadwinner in my family, and because it's important to me, and Byron's always been super supportive of me doing things the way that I want to do it, like I just see one patient at a time. And I take PPO insurances, which is not going to be paying like the best. So my model is a little bit flawed, but it makes me happy because I feel like it's best of both worlds. The reason I have nights where I'm like, is because of all the other stuff, the business. It's like hard to run a business, especially when you have no freaking clue how to run a business. And there's only so much that you can learn. Obviously, there are a lot more resources these days to learn the business aspect of dentistry, but what I found with a lot of those business resources is that it totally makes things into a business. It makes it into such a freaking business that it's hard to like preserve the sanctity of healthcare, what we're doing, like dentistry. So you have to find your own balance. That's my balance. I've definitely sacrificed the amount that I make so that I can keep that balance. And I wouldn't be able to do that without the support of my husband, who works really freaking hard every single day. That's being an associate. You never have as much control as you think you have, and you are actually extremely replaceable in the entire system. versus being an owner. Being an owner is like you have 100% of the control over the clinical, but you also have 100% liability over everything bad that happens in a practice, which is a lot of things. Could be a lot of things. I think one of the next jumps that I can make is how stressful the actual profession is. It's a lot of stress. I hope people know that. It's a very stressful profession. The stress is not really the dentistry. Once you have all the skills to provide a really good service, it's not about the dentistry. It's about being able to console people. It's almost like you're a therapist. And then after a full day of being a therapist and walking through the dentistry, you go home and you need therapy yourself. I get therapy once a month. And it's not because I'm like pulling my hair out of my head, it's preventative. It's to make sure that I'm staying good. The other thing that I do to protect myself is I only work 3 days a week. Once I see people for more than 3 days, then I start to get burned out and I start to like lose my love and passion for dentistry, which is a luxury at this point because I should definitely be working more. I can be working more, and the more that I work, the more money I can make because dentistry is a profession where you're always trading time for money. But I choose not to because I love what I do and I want to stay loving it. That is definitely a luxury. My husband does not have that luxury. He goes to work every single day whether or not he wants to. So I'm a spoiled ass bee. I'm very, very spoiled. I'm lucky to be able to practice in this way. And even though I'm practicing exactly the way that I want to, I'm still stressed. I still get stressed. Maybe it's my personality, I don't know. But I think dentistry is a very stressful profession in general. Last year, if you watch my vlogs, you'll see like just the culmination of stress that I was dealing with last year. I was working at USC and I was running my practice and I had employee turnover. Like my hygienist moved and my dental assistant, my beloved dental assistant, she went off to hygiene school. A good dental assistant is so important because they're the person that you work with. They're like your second brain. Like my dental assistant, she's so good. She already knows what I'm gonna do even before I do it. And when you find somebody who can do that, you're just working in a rhythm. You don't even need to talk to each other. And the patient then can relax because they know like everything's handled. But when you're working with someone new, it's really hard to keep that serenity within yourself. You wanna come up here? Come up, come up. Oh, what a good boy you are. Okay, so the next one I think that's really bad about dentistry is that it's kind of dangerous. It is dangerous. And you're only seeing this in light of COVID, right? But it is dangerous because we're working with bodily fluids. So universal precautions, y'all, but really all of our universal precautions have been put into question now with COVID. Everything that we've been doing is not protecting us enough from everything that's happening. And so now we're going to look like astronauts when we go back to work. But there's a lot of aerosols that are produced in dentistry. Aerosols happen when you're using like a Cavitron or a drill or like a Profi handpiece. Those aerosols you can't see. They're like little micro droplets that are floating around in the air. And those are dangerous when you work with certain types of patients. So you're always like all up in someone's grill. The other thing is that it is a very physically demanding, dangerous profession. Like I'm 33 and I'm literally a hunchback right now. Like look at this. This is my normal state all the time. It's funny because when you're in dental school, we're always like harping on ergonomics. In ergonomics, you are taught to protect yourself first and only work within this range and have the patient move. And there's only so much a patient can move because like sometimes you got like a really old patient with a really bad back and they can't put their chair back all the way. They're like, you put it back like this much and they're like, stop, I can't go back anymore. It's like, you just have to work around that. In real life, that's what you have to do. And in real life, if I have like let's say I have an hour and a half to do a crown and the patient ends up being like 10 minutes late, and then it takes me extra long to get them numb, like I'm gonna pull their cheek back and get working like fast. And you know, I'm probably gonna sacrifice part of my own body to get that done because I need to stay on time because there's another patient right after that. So yeah, Hunchback City. My fifth point is that you don't get benefits. Like when you own your own practice, unless you're paying up the wazoo to provide benefits for all your staff and all that, you really don't get benefits. And this is a struggle for any small business owner. You really, like, benefits are hard to come by. You get benefits if you work for a bigger institution. Like, for example, I got really good benefits when I worked at USC, and that's one of the reasons I took that job. My husband, he works for a corporation, so he does get benefits. So that's one of the pros of working for a larger corporation or a DSO, is you do get benefits. And like I said, benefits are hard to come by. Like, benefits are like gold. To piggyback off of everything that I've said, stress and how business incorporates with healthcare and all that with the benefits, I think an important thing to note is that you get paid as a dentist as much as you can produce. So that's one of the big points that I wanted to make. You don't get a steady paycheck when you're a dentist. Unless your contract, you get like a base pay. But basically when you're a dentist, you get paid the amount that you're worth. What you're worth, it depends on how much you produce. So how many crowns you did that day, how many productive procedures you did that day. You don't have a steady paycheck. It's very different than working as an employee. For example, when I worked at USC as an employee, I would just show up and I get paid the same amount. It doesn't matter if I worked hard that day or I didn't work hard that day. And funnily enough, one of the professors told me, like, in the beginning, I was like really working hard for USC, and they told me, like, Joyce, you're working too hard. We're all getting paid the same amount here. So that's the struggle of working at a big corporation like that. It's very stable, but there is no incentive to work harder or to do a really good job. Like, you want to feel motivated as an employee, right? But it's hard to do that in like a bigger setting like that. You do get a stable paycheck and benefits. But when you are a dentist in like a private practice setting, a lot of dentists don't really get the stability. Instead, you make as much as you produce. That could be really stressful because there were days when I first started working as an associate, I would go to work and I wouldn't even see any patients because it really depends on how busy that practice is. If that practice is really busy, then you have a lot of patients coming through and you have the opportunity to make more money. But if the practice is kind of slow and dead, then you don't really have the opportunity to make money because there's no patients coming through the door. So is it your fault? Not really. It's up to the business owner to provide patients for you and to make sure that you're getting paid. Even though my mom was a dentist and I saw her do everything, like, this was all a surprise to me. Like, I'm from a dental family, and this was all still a huge surprise to me, that this is the way that dentistry is and what it's like to be an actual dentist. Please subscribe to my channel. I mostly do vlogs, but I think you can learn so much from vlogs. Like, I look back at last year and I was so stressed out. Like, you can just learn a lot about the profession from watching, like, the daily life of being a dentist. Right here, say bye, say bye. He's so over it. He's so over this.